Hello, welcome to the course SJPHY1B01 Mechanics 1. The contents of this course is taken from An Introduction to Mechanics by Kleppner and Kolenko. Today we will start a new discussion on Chapter 6, Angular Momentum and Fixed Axis Rotation. In the previous two chapters, we have been talking exclusively about linear motion or translation motion. But if you look at our ultimate aim, our aim is to find a way of analyzing the general motion of a rigid body under any combination of applied forces. Now, there is an important theorem in classical mechanics known as Chesel's theorem, which says that any displacement of a rigid body can be resolved into two independent motions. One, a translation motion of the center of mass. Two, a rotational motion about the center of mass. So we all are familiar with the concept of center of mass. So if you have a multi-particle system or an extended system, center of mass allows you to approximate it to a single mass system or a single body problem. In that way, your mathematical analysis is going to be easier. So imagine that there is a point in your system where the entire mass is supposed to be concentrated, and under the influence of an external force, your extended system behaves exactly the same way as a point mass placed at the center of mass would behave under the same external force. Okay, so here you're reducing a many body problem into a single body problem. So let's check qualitatively whether Chesel's theorem makes any sense. So if you imagine that you have a bar stool at position A, so this is vertically standing. So this dot gives you the position of the center of mass. Then you move it to another position B where this is horizontally standing. Okay. Now according to Chesel's theorem, you can resolve this motion into two components. One is the translation of the center of mass, and the second one, rotation about the center of mass. Okay, so you first translate your center of mass from this position to this position. Okay, so in the new position, the bar stool is still standing vertically, just that it's the position of its center of mass has moved from this point to this point. So this is a pure translation motion. Now second one, ultimately you want to reach at this configuration, right, the horizontally standing configuration. So what do? You imagine that there is an axis passing through the center of mass, then you rotate your system about the center of mass. So this is a pure rotation. So you can choose your axis perpendicular to the plane of the screen, and when you rotate it counterclockwise by 90 degree, then you will reach position B, right? So your entire motion you decompose into a pure translation motion of the center of mass and a pure rotation motion about the center of mass. And these two are completely independent. You could perform the rotation first, then the translation, still you arrive at the same final configuration. So which means if you want to study any general motion, you need to have some fundamental idea about translation motion or linear motion, which we already have from the past two modules. We had considerable insights into translation motion. So on top of that, we also need to have some basic idea about rotation motion. So that's what we are going to do in this chapter. We will try to have some basic idea about how to analyze rotational motion. So before jumping into a more generic problem of rotational motion of rigid body or an extended body, as always we start with a simple case, that is rotation of a point mass or a particle. So once you learn about particle, you can quickly extend it to a rigid body. Now the most important parameter when it comes to rotational motion or circular motion is the angular momentum of the particle. Remember, in translation motion we had linear momentum, right? And you write down the equation of motion in terms of the linear momentum. Rate of change of linear momentum is the external force F. So you write F equal to dP by dt. From that you derive the famous equation F equal to ma, right? So if you want to solve a classical mechanical system, first you need to know about its linear momentum. Same way, if you want to solve the angular motion of a system, you need to know what is its angular momentum. And angular momentum is defined as moment of linear momentum. So if you have a point mass which is rotating about an origin, suppose r is the radial vector or distance from the origin, and p is the linear momentum of the particle at a particular point, and at this point the angular momentum L is defined as r cross p. So this is a cross product, which means the resultant is going to be perpendicular to both r and p. So if you consider a planar motion where r and p are in the xy plane, then the angular momentum L is going to be perpendicular to the xy plane. In other words, it's going to be along the z direction. And the unit of angular momentum is kilogram meter square per second. Now, how do you get the direction of the angular momentum? You know how to determine the direction of a cross product, right? So you place your right hand in the direction of the r vector and curl your fingers towards the p vector. Then the direction of your thumb gives you the direction of the angular momentum. So if you imagine that you have a counterclockwise direction, and when you do this procedure, you will find that your thumb is pointing in the plus z direction. So for counterclockwise direction, rotation, angular momentum is in the plus z direction, and for clockwise rotation, it is in the minus z direction. There are various methods for visualizing and calculating angular momenta. Let's briefly discuss about three methods. Okay. So in method 1, so once again you have a point mass which is doing some sort of a rotational motion. Then you have identified its position vector or distance vector with respect to some origin. You call it as r. You also know the instantaneous value of its momentum, call it as p. And phi is the angle between r and p. Now from the definition of angular momentum, you know L equal to r cross p, or in terms of angle you can write rp sine phi. So once again imagine that the rotation happens in the xy plane, so L is in the z direction, and in this case you can see p is in this direction, so this is a counterclockwise direction, which means L is going to be along the plus z direction. So angular momentum vector is rp sine phi k cap. Or if you take only the magnitude, since we always talk about xy motion now onwards, by default L is going to be along the z direction, so I will add a subscript z here, okay, to indicate that L is always along the z direction. So magnitude Lz is rp sine phi. Now what you can do is you can draw a radial vector which is perpendicular to the line of P. So this is the perpendicular radial vector, call this as R perpendicular. Now if you look at this triangle, this angle is pi minus phi. So when you take sine pi minus phi, this is going to be the opposite side R perpendicular divided by the hypotenuse, which is R, or you can write R perpendicular equal to R sine pi minus phi. Sine pi minus phi is sine phi, so r perpendicular equal to r sine phi. So in this expression I have Lz equal to pr sine phi. Instead of r sine phi I can write r perpendicular. So I get the angular momentum Lz equal to r perpendicular into p. In other words, angular momentum is the product of perpendicular distance and linear momentum. Alternatively, what you can do is you can draw a p vector which is perpendicular to the r vector. So you call this as p perpendicular. So this is the component of p perpendicular to r. Once again, this angle is pi minus phi. So when you take sine pi minus phi, this is going to be p perpendicular divided by p, or you can write just like the previous case, p perpendicular equal to p sine pi minus phi, which is p sine phi. So in this expression, instead of p sine phi, you can write p perpendicular And you get another expression for angular momentum, Lz equal to Rp perpendicular. So this is the product of the perpendicular component of the linear momentum and the radial distance. Okay, so these are the two methods in which you can calculate the angular momentum. Now moving on to the second method. So here once again you have R vector here and you have a P vector which is in the counterclockwise direction. So once again your Lz is going to be along the plus Z direction. Here what you can do is you can resolve R into a parallel component and a perpendicular component. You know that any vector can be resolved into two orthogonal components. So I have an R perpendicular component here and a R parallel component here. So ideally it should be here, but we know that in the case of vectors you can translate a vector parallelly. So whether you draw it at this position or draw a parallel vector at this position, both have same properties. Now if you look at this triangle from the rules of vector summation, you can see that R vector is nothing but sum of R perpendicular and R parallel, where R perpendicular is the perpendicular component of R vector, which also is perpendicular to the P vector, whereas R parallel is parallel to the P vector. So R equal to R perpendicular plus R parallel. Now you take your classic definition, L equal to R cross P. Instead of R, you can write R perpendicular plus R parallel. You expand this, you get R perpendicular cross P plus R parallel cross P. And what's the value of R parallel cross P? We know that R parallel is parallel to the P vector. And cross product of two parallel vectors is 0 because theta equal to 0, which makes sine theta equal to 0. So this term vanishes, you have R perpendicular cross P. And if you look at this geometry, R perpendicular and P are perpendicular to each other, which means theta equal to 90 degree and sine 90 equal to 1. So when two vectors are perpendicular, the cross product is replaced by a normal product of their magnitude. So you can write, once again you get the result, Lz equal to magnitude of R perpendicular into magnitude of P, just like we got here, R perpendicular into P. Alternatively, you can resolve the P vector into two orthogonal components. You have P perpendicular, which is perpendicular to the R vector, and P parallel, which is parallel to the R vector, and you do the same procedure, you will get this result, Lz equal to modulus of R into modulus of P perpendicular, which is what we had derived in the previous case. And the third method is to directly use the vector notation. So if you look at this diagram, R you can write in terms of its xy components as xi cap plus yj cap, and there is no z component, so 0 z cap. Sorry for the typo here, the z component is 0. Let me correct it. Okay, so the z component is 0. Now you get R equal to xi cap plus yj cap plus 0 k cap. And look at P also has only x and y components. So this is pxi cap plus pyj cap plus 0 k cap. Now you know how to calculate the cross product in terms of the components, right? So you write L equal to R cross P in terms of a determinant. So we have I cap, j cap, k cap, x, y 0 and px, py 0. When you expand this, you get xpy minus ypz k cap. So this is the third method. So depending on the geometry, you can choose any of this, whichever is convenient for you. Now what we are going to do is we will take two quick practical examples of angular motion, and we will see how to calculate angular momentum in those two cases. First one is the example of a sliding block. So imagine that you have a block of mass m and negligible dimensions, which means it is almost like a point mass. Okay. Sliding freely in the x direction, plus x direction, with velocity v equal to vi cap. So this is a one-dimensional motion. What are its angular momenta? LA about origin A and LB about origin B. So you are asked to calculate angular momentum about these 2 points. So let's first take origin A. So we know that L equal to R cross P. So if you want to calculate angular momentum about this point, first you need to calculate the distance vector with respect to this point. So here we know that the distance is only along the x direction. So you can write RA equal to xi cap. And what is momentum? Momentum is nothing but mass into velocity. We know the velocity expression v into I, mass is m, so momentum p equal to m into vi. And what is the value of LA, angular momentum about A? This is nothing but RA cross P, which is RA cross MV, or m into RA cross V. M is a constant, you can take it outside the cross product. And if you look at the diagram, you notice that both R vector and V vector are along the same direction. Both are pointed in the plus x direction. In other words, we are talking about cross product of 2 parallel vectors, which we know that equal to 0. So angular momentum about point A is 0, which is not surprising, right? Because if you look at this motion, this is a pure translation motion, right? Because here the direction of RA vector is always along the same direction, right? So this is a pure translation motion. In that case, angular momentum, which is a measure of angular motion, is going to be 0. Okay. Now what about angular momentum about point B? So first thing, you need to identify the position vector or the distance vector. So let's call the distance of object M with respect to B as RB. Now first question, is it going to be a pure translation motion like the previous case, or is the angular momentum is going to be 0? Let's quickly check that qualitatively. So at this position, this is the direction of RB. So if you move the block towards the plus x direction, so suppose your block is somewhere here, then you can notice that the direction of RB is going to be different. Or if the block is somewhere in the left side, there also the direction of RB is going to be different. In other words, at each location, the direction of the radial vector is going to be different, which is similar to a circular motion, right? If you take a circular motion, at each point, the direction of radial vector is different, sorry. So this is one of the characteristics of an angular motion. At each point, the direction of the radial vector is going to be different. So you have some sense of rotation here, which means the angular momentum has to be non-zero. So with this understanding, let's calculate the value of angular momentum. Since RB is at an arbitrary direction, you can resolve into 2 orthogonal components. One is R perpendicular, which is directed in the downward direction, and one is R parallel, which is directed in the plus x direction. And from this triangle, I can write RB equal to R perpendicular plus R parallel. And let this height from origin is let's define it as L. So this is the length or the height of point B with respect to origin A. Now what is going to be LB? LB is nothing but RB cross P, which is M into RB cross V. Since we have 2 components for RB, let me first calculate R parallel cross V and R perpendicular cross V. What is R parallel cross V? These two are 2 parallel vectors, so its cross product is going to be 0. On the other hand, R perpendicular cross V, so these are 2 perpendicular vectors, which means cross product is same as product of their magnitudes. Magnitude of V is small v and magnitude of R perpendicular is L, so this is going to be L into V. So value of angular momentum about point B, LB, is going to be M into RB cross V, which is nothing but M into L into V. Now what is the direction of the angular momentum? So here angular momentum is contributed only by the r perpendicular component, right? Because r parallel component gives you zero angular momentum. Okay, so r perpendicular is along the minus y direction, the downward direction. So you place your right hand along the minus y direction. V is along the plus x direction. So you curl your fingers towards plus x. Then you find that your thumb is pointed in the plus z direction. So direction of LB is given by k vector. So LB vector is MLVK. Or if you want to use method 3, where you directly find the cross product using the components, you might as well do that. So you can define RB in terms of its components. So you have a plus x component and a minus y component, right? So x component is nothing but xi cap, and the minus y component is going to be this distance minus Lj cap. And we already know V is nothing but V I cap, right? So you calculate LB equal to M into RB cross V, which is M into the determinant Ijk, and for RB the components are X minus L0. For V the components are V00. When you do the math, you once again get MLVK. So if you choose the origin as A, you have zero angular momentum. On the other hand, if you choose origin as B, you have a non-zero angular momentum. In other words, in the case of any angular motion, the value of the angular momentum varies with the choice of the origin. This is an important concept. Let's take another example, another point object. That's a conical pendulum. So we are already familiar with the motion of a conical pendulum. We know how to write down the equations of motion and also how to write down the constraint equation, how to apply the conservation of energy principle, etc. So it's time now to understand its angular motion. So let's take the same conical pendulum of length L and mass m, executing steady circular motion with constant angular velocity omega. We are asked to find out its angular momentum about origin A, call this as LA, and about the pivot point B, call this as LB. So let's first calculate angular momentum about point A. So this is the origin. So it executes a circular motion about this origin. So this is a classic circular motion. So R is the radial vector, P is the momentum vector. And we know that for a pure circular motion, the radial vector is always perpendicular to the velocity or momentum. So R is perpendicular to P. Let's first calculate the magnitude of the angular momentum. Magnitude of LA is going to be magnitude of R cross P. Since R and P are perpendicular, this is nothing but a product of their magnitudes. So this is R into P. Now what is the magnitude of P vector? So this is nothing but mass into velocity. Since we are talking about circular motion, we can write V in terms of angular velocity omega as V equal to R omega. So magnitude of linear momentum equal to mr omega. When you substitute it back into this expression, you get LA equal to mr square omega. Now what is the direction? Look here, this is a counterclockwise direction, which means LA is directed in the plus z direction. So LA vector is mr square omega k. And if you look at the parameters here, for a steady circular motion, R is a constant, omega is a constant, mass anyway is a constant. So LA is a constant both in magnitude and direction. Now what about angular momentum about the pivot point B? So first you draw the radial vector or a distance vector. So let's say distance of point mass m with respect to B is given by R prime vector, and this is the linear momentum vector. Once again you can see that the radial vector and the momentum vector both are perpendicular to each other. So let's first calculate the magnitude of the angular momentum. So magnitude of LB equal to magnitude of R cross P. Since these two are perpendicular vectors, you just take a normal product of their magnitudes. Magnitude of r prime is nothing but length of the thread or length of the scale, which is L, and magnitude of linear momentum, we know this is mr omega. So magnitude of LB is nothing but mlr omega. So once again we see that depending on the choice of the origin, the value of the angular momentum is completely different. So this is true for any angular motion. Now next question is, what is the direction of LB? So in the case of LA, we have seen that the direction is consistent along the plus Z direction. Is it true for LB as well? So from the very definition, we know that LB is perpendicular to R prime and P, right? Because LB is defined as R prime cross P. So let's take two different positions. The bob is at this location and this location. So here, this is the direction of R prime, and P is tangential, which means LB is along this direction. And when the bob is at this position, LB is along this different direction. So unlike LA, LB doesn't have a constant direction. Its direction changes as the bob moves along the circular direction. So the magnitude of LB is constant, because if you look at this definition, M is a constant. For a steady circular motion, R and omega are constant. L is the length of the thread, that is also a constant. So its magnitude is constant, but its direction changes as the bob moves. Now, as I said earlier, for any vector, you can translate it parallelly, keep it another position, its properties remain the same. So if I take this LB vector, translate it parallelly and keep at this position, and look at the LB vector. So as the bob moves around in the complete circle, you will notice that LB sweeps out a cone. So this is the direction of the LB vector. So I can quickly resolve this into two components, one perpendicular component along the Z direction, one parallel component which is along the radial direction. And you can notice that the perpendicular component of LB is always constant. It is always along the Z direction. So this is similar to your LA component, which has constant magnitude and constant direction. On the other hand, the parallel component of LB, this is a rotation, so its magnitude is a constant, but its direction varies as the bob moves in a circle. Okay. So the bottom line is that if you are looking at an angular motion, the magnitude and direction of the angular momentum which you measure is going to be completely dependent on the choice of your origin. So that's about angular momentum. In the next class, we will talk about another important parameter of angular motion, that is torque. And you will see that just like angular momentum is the angular equivalent of linear momentum, torque is going to be the angular equivalent of force. Thank you.